And now, live from Los Angeles, San Diego, and Cincinnati, Ohio, it's the Ultimate Candid Show with Brad the Shark. Today's guest is Autumn Grace Peterson. We're going to learn something a little bit candid about Autumn Grace today. Are you ready? Let's go! Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being part of the show today. Sharkus, how are you doing? What's new?
I'm just happy to be alive. It's been one heck of a beautiful
You're just
weekend.
happy to be alive. What's going on in the world these days?
Well, you know, it's Gay Pride Month of June, so there's a lot going on in Southern California and LA. This weekend, there's
a lot going on in
WeHo Pride, yeah. So there's a big parade today. And this whole weekend, they've been really focusing on it on the news, and it's been like all over the place. It's bigger and better than it's been in the last few years. So, and you know, with all the stuff going on with like the Dodgers and all the other stuff that's going out there, real controversial stuff, it's even more focused than it's ever been before. There's picketing going on and all kinds of interesting things at like local elementary schools relative to
wow.
Yeah. So it's been pretty exciting. Secondly, I don't know if you heard, but Al Pacino at 83 is still procreating. He's now DNA confirmed.
He's still kicking it.
Yeah, his 29-year-old girlfriend, Nora Alfala, is pregnant, and DNA confirmed that it's his. So at 83, he's going to be a daddy once again. I guess he won't be alive.
So nearly 103, and that baby will be 20 years old.
Yeah, when he's 20 years old, I don't think Al will be at the baseball game. So I don't know, man. But hey, you know, good for him.
You never
good
know.
For his girlfriend. Yeah, whatever.
Good for him.
And then recently, they were talking. You know, Star Wars is always a recurring theme with people. They love Star Wars. They love science fiction, George Lucas, and all that. And recently, they were talking about how Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker back in 2017, there was a boy who was in intensive care, and he was dying from a neurological disease. And one of his last wishes were that he had a chance to meet Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill. So his father was able to find and get a hold of his agent, and Mark Hamill was kind enough to go to the hospital and visit the boy. And one of his last dying wishes. But it just goes to show you, even celebrities will go above and beyond to make a wish and to make somebody brighten their day, even in the scheme of things. So those are just some of the current events that are going on this weekend. And, you know, look forward to a beautiful sunny day for the rest of the day. We've had a lot of June gloom and May gloom. So now I'm looking forward to seeing the sun again. I love the sun.
There you go. Quick note about Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill grew up in San Diego, right in the Claremont area, and he has a street sign with his name on it on the street that he grew up on. So he has ties to the San Diego area as well.
And by the way, Mark Hamill was on General Hospital in the very beginning of his career, like Demi Moore and like Rick Springfield and all these other famous people. It seems like General Hospital has been like a hotel turntable for celebrity actors in the beginning of their careers.
Or shall we say the launch pad for celebrity actors? How does that sound?
There you go. Yeah, exactly. I guess the force was with them when they were on General Hospital.
There you go. Well, even though this guest may be a long ways away, we will still use the traditional way and see if she's at the front door. I think we have somebody at the door there, Pat. What do you think?
I think so.
Let's have a little introduction. Welcome, Autumn Grace Peterson. How are you today?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Excellent. Thank you so much for being part of the show today. We're very excited to have you here.
Thank you.
And have you tell us all kinds of interested, candid stories and things about you. So you're in the Cincinnati area. Have you grown up there, or is that basically where you grew up? Or tell us a little bit about your background.
I grew up in Milford, so it's outside of Cincy. But when I moved back after college, I was like, I'm young. I need to be, if I'm in Cincinnati, like I need to be in the most poppin' area. So I'm right downtown, which I love. And yeah, I've grown up here my entire life. My family moved here right before I was born. So my dad, who you are familiar with, is from California, and then my mom is from Michigan. So we get a little bit of a taste of all of America that way, which is nice. But yeah,
But now you live in downtown Cincinnati.
yep, live right downtown.
And that seems to be the thing for people kind of your age group. We kind of have the same thing going on here in San Diego, and I think a little bit in Los Angeles as well. You're right
Hmm.
there downtown in the heart of it. So you basically don't have to use a car. You can walk around, get to the bars, get to the ins and outs and things like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. I love walking. I think it's nice that more so than just like going out's great and stuff. It's just like the city offers like yoga in the park or like kind of a like a movie theater experience outdoors and everything. So it's like you can take advantage of all those things pretty easily. If you're like living with and there's so many like exciting people around too, so you get to meet a lot of different people. It can get loud and it can get crazy for sure, but it's kind of what you want going on when you're young, I feel like.
Where all the excitement is.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a lot?
And
Exactly.
Are you
enjoy
big
it.
into sports at
Mm-hmm.
all, Autumn? Do you like sports teams?
I am only into the Bengals. So I that's it. I do watch football. I'm not
Right.
into college football probably because I went to Miami University and we have a team, but there's no point in going to those games really. So didn't have that experience. Being in Ohio, everyone loves OSU here, but I have like a slight like I don't know. It's not like I like to see them lose, but like I also don't always want to see them win. I don't know. If I'm with my best friends who went there, then I want to see them win because I don't want to see them sad. But otherwise, it's kind of like all right, OSU is so good.
Well,
But
yeah.
not really into the Reds, I'll say. But we don't have basketball, so just Bengals for me.
So
Yeah,
Bengals football.
I
You have a
figured there
Yeah.
favorite
might be a baseball
football.
team. Yeah, but the Reds were big back in the
Oh
'70s.
yeah, I
The
liked
Reds,
baseball growing up.
really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's
liked it
it,
growing up. I don't specifically the Reds. I would say are a bit controversial here. For
really.
instance, when I started not rooting for the Reds anymore is when they kind of had it out for my favorite bar in the area, and they shut down my favorite bar. So I was like, I'm boycotting the Reds. If they're shutting
Oh,
down my favorite bar, I'm out. So
why did they shut?
yeah.
What is your favorite
Why
bar?
were they shunning your bar? What happened?
Yeah.
So they shut down Gala Park because they said that it created too much of a ruckus downtown. I'm like, Gala Park's creating a ruckus? Like, you guys are shooting off fireworks and causing a craze of all the dogs in the area every Friday night. I'm like, I don't think this tiny little bar is a problem. So, yeah, I kind of, anytime
That's
I go to a Reds game now, I'm like hoping the Reds lose.
yeah,
So,
that's really weird.
Wow.
yeah.
There's actually
Yeah,
you,
I
you
agree.
guys have a pitcher on the Reds that actually graduated from Notre Dame High School in L.A. Hunter, his name is Hunter Green. He's about
Mm-hmm.
21 years old, maybe, and the guy can throw a 100
Mm,
mile per hour fastball. But he played the
that's
Dodgers when he was
crazy.
here in town, and he sucked. So
Ah.
the Dodgers lit him up like a Christmas tree. So I was happy about that. Anytime my
Yeah,
Reds.
love to hear that. It is interesting now hearing like the pitcher's 21 and I'm like I'm 28 at this point, so I'm like, wow, like these kids well, I'm getting older and these kids are staying the same age, like like how are
Yeah,
they? Like
yeah.
it's like college sports even like these are kids
Yeah,
playing, that we're watching. So it's
yeah.
crazy
Well,
seeing that.
28 is not exactly elderly by any means. You're very young. So
I appreciate you saying that, but
yeah, yeah.
how does it
You're,
feel, I guess, from your guys' perspective, if you like say like your old college team or something, like seeing like 18 or 20-year-olds play a sport or something?
well, they have a short window. So when you think about it in sports
Mm-hmm.
generally, whether it's basketball or football or even baseball, the reason why they get paid a lot of big bucks is because if they get injured, their career's done, or
Mm-hmm.
their window. I mean, some players don't make it 20 years or 15 years. They might play like 7 or 10.
Yeah.
So and
Mm-hmm.
and
Unless you're Tom Brady.
yeah, unless you're Tom Brady and you found the fountain of youth. But I mean, the truth of the
Yeah.
matter is, like, you can't play when you're like 38 at the prime of your life. The prime of your life is like in your 20s. So I think
Yeah.
sports
Yeah.
teams are willing to invest in somebody knowing they're young and that they have less injuries when they're young, and your body is much more robust when you're young. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
you're expected to perform at a higher level. And then as you get older, you have more injuries. Things can happen, and you know, it
Mm-hmm.
just with time, athletes just don't have that kind of lengthy stay in most sports past like 35,
Yeah.
36. But yeah, so
It all
So
starts
you
go
catching
ahead,
want
up
to be
with
Brad.
you.
successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So how long do you live downtown, Autumn?
How long have I lived downtown? It has been about 5 years, almost 6 years downtown.
Oh, for quite a
So
while.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's
what were some of the biggest changes you noticed when you moved to downtown?
a lot louder, I'll say. I have lived 6 places, I think, in the last 5 years or so.
Wow.
So it was, I needed to get out of my parents' house. I think any kid coming back from college feels that way.
Uh-huh.
So I was desperate and I was taking like 3 month leases certain places. Really realized how challenging moving is through that experience. Um, Not great, but through that I got to live in a lot of different places. So I thought living above a wine bar would be pretty chill. It's a wine bar. Let me tell you, fist fights on a Tuesday. Like it's very like it was crazier than I expected, but I've also lived like in certain housing that like for instance I could be next to like Section 8 housing or something and the people are the best people I've ever met, like so friendly and everything. So you get to meet, it's also great because there's so much diversity downtown, especially in Cincinnati. So you get to meet a variety of people and I don't know, like form real relationships and bonds with people from all over, which I love.
So you
Very
like the
nice.
eclectic
Very
life
nice.
Yeah,
versus the suburban?
for sure. I don't think I could. I mean, don't quote me, but and here I am on a podcast being probably quoted, but I can't imagine myself ever living in the suburbs, I think.
Wow.
So you're a
I'm
So
city
pretty
you
girl,
like
downtown
the
city girl.
yeah, I would say I'm just extremes. Huh?
you like the action. When I say the
Yeah,
action,
I think so. I
you
could
like
see
the noise.
live for the noise. Yeah, but I could see myself it's like two extremes. Like maybe I want to live on a farm and like have some chickens and like create my own food, or I need to be above a bar where my floorboards are shaking. It's like one or the other, but I think I also feel this way sometimes about like crossover cars. For instance, like I love like a big SUV for travel or like a sedan that's fuel efficient. But a crossover, everyone says it's like the best of both worlds. I'm like, I think it's missing the mark on both of them for me. Like I think it's like the worst of both worlds. I'm like, I want the extremes kind of thing. It's like I want to live, yeah, on a farm or in a city. So
So would you say like
yeah.
some of your colleagues and your peers in your age group, would they you think they see things like that where they want more diversity and they want more not eclectic necessarily is the right word, but maybe like wanting to have variability in their lives, not being mundane. They might see it as mundane.
I could see that potentially. I think I have friends who are wanting to live in the suburbs, so there's always a bit of that, I think, and it's probably person by person. But I'd say generally at large, our generation's questioning a lot of things. And I think looking, for instance, like we were talking about football,
Hmm.
there was an interesting uh, article I wrote a couple years ago on like the Super Bowl. And so like Gen Z, for instance, like the youngest generation is very they question a lot of things. So it's like Super Bowl has always been like this huge program, but over time it's gained less and less viewership now because younger generation isn't as invested in like that macho nature. They don't want to like they don't love like anything that has to do with like homophobia or like any like burly stuff like that because people are putting their bodies on the line. People are facing concussions later in life and kind of looking at that more critically to the
Hmm.
point that like some brands are, for instance, like instead of putting their money into a Super Bowl commercial where everyone felt like their all eyes were going to be on them, instead they're doing like a TikTok ad. So like people are pulling money. Like Budweiser, I think in 2021 started polling they're not doing Super Bowl commercials anymore. They might have like made last year, but they, for instance, like people are looking at things more critically at this generation and seeing like individually how it's impacting people, and yeah, wanting to have probably more diversity and more real connection with people and valuing people first, you know.
Yeah, I've
Would that
read a
be on
lot of articles about that.
TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook?
Mhm. Yeah. I think it's a good movement generally. I think I'm a young millennial, so I'm like kind of on the cusp a bit, but I do love the way like Gen Z has kind of brought a lot of questions there, like pushing for brands that are valuing people first, you know, and it's like people would put more money behind a company or a brand that has the same values as them,
I
which is
think
a cool way.
empathy's
Like it's
become a
like you
big
have
deal,
power with
hasn't it?
like your dollar.
Empathy's become a bigger
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
factor in where people put their money and where they put their trust.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Completely.
that's
Yeah,
what
there's
people are
power with
looking
your dollar and what you spend money on. So like, yeah, knowing that a company might have unsustainable practices or something like that is going to make someone more critical, which it's a really cool testament and movement, I feel like, or yeah, just movement in society.
for. Excellent.
Speaking of brands, you have an Instagram page. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what I'd like to do is have you detail that Instagram page for our listeners.
Oh yeah. So my Instagram is at the actual Cole Sprouse. There's underscores at the underscore actual underscore Cole Sprouse. So I hope he doesn't come after me with that. But what I used to do is I used to change my handle like on a weekly basis. So like Rihanna's Instagram is bad gal Riri. So I would change mine to bad gal and then change my picture to her, which she basically did and stuff. But so I just kept doing that, and then I a couple years ago kind of got tired of that. Maybe I just found things to do with my time, started living downtown, you know. But so I changed it to the actual Cole Sprouse because I used to always get told I looked like Cole Sprouse, which is not the most flattering thing to hear as a young woman. But I was like, I'm gonna lean into it, so that's what it's been. And anytime I consider changing my handle, my friends told me not to. So we're sticking with that right
Sticking
now.
with the one.
So yeah, yeah, for sure.
Again, that's the actual Cole Sprouse, correct? Or what is it? The actual Cole Sprouse underscore?
Yeah, at the underscore actual, well, at the underscore actual underscore Cole Sprouse. So yeah.
Perfect. And now, transitioning in, living downtown, we talked a little bit about transportation, or we touched on it for just a minute. You've got some
Mm-hmm.
very interesting transportation stories that I would like you to lead up to and
Mm-hmm.
head into something that's very candid about you that our listeners might find very, very interesting. So I think you have two transportation stories. Maybe you could touch on those two for just a moment.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe I'll start with the first one before. So it's cry crazy that I still am a huge advocate for living downtown and walking because I mean I think it's great for the planet and such, but I have had quite the experience with it. I was walking back from work. It was I think it was a Tuesday, slightly rainy. It's like 4 p.m. I take the same route every day, and I waited for the crosswalk sign to come on, just standing there, listening to a podcast. Probably not as good as this one, but just a podcast. And I'm walking, I wait for the sign, I'm walking across the street, and then all I just feel is whoosh, like huge, like I
Whoosh.
didn't even know what happened. I'm totally out of it. And then I come to it, and I'm like on the ground, and like my head's killing me. And like I look down, there's like blood coming out like on the ground. I'm like, what even happened? I look up and there's this huge Ford F-150 there, and this guy is running out of the Ford F-150, and I had just been hit.
You got hit by
I
the F-150.
I got hit by the F-150. I would love to say you should see the other guy, but no, I just took it like a champ. Here I am still standing, but it was pretty confusing. So like, there's bystanders calling the police and such, and the guy runs out of the truck and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And he's like, "I'm a paramedic," and he grabs this like dirty rag. And I'm like, I don't, maybe I'm hallucinating. I got hit by a truck, you know, but I was like, if you're a paramedic, what are you doing with this dirty rag on my forehead? I feel like that's not the first move, but an ambulance came, and I'm just so confused generally. And he's saying like, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to see how I missed you. You're just wearing all black. I was not wearing all black. I was wearing a light blue zip up. I had this bright yellow umbrella. I don't know how he missed me, but there's like this line from John Mulaney. Do you guys know who John Mulaney is? He's a
No.
stand-up comedian. He basically just says like, I am such a pushover. You could probably pour soup in my lap, and I'd probably apologize to you. Meanwhile, I'm like, I think I can one up John Mulaney because I'm like, you could hit me with your truck, and I'm there like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm like, am I assuming guilt for getting hit by your truck or whatever? So it was pretty eye-opening to me because just the whole experience in a sense of I'm getting this ambulance and they're asking me like where do you want to be taken to? I'm like, I don't know, I just got hit by a truck. Like
Where do you want to
like
take me?
what are they doing? Someone can't even talk, for instance. Yeah, like where do you want to take me? Like get help? I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So they're like asking me questions and like I'm also like pretty confused. I'm in the ambulance and they're like, I'm like, my ribs hurt so bad. I don't know why. And like, well, you just got hit by a truck. I'm like, but yeah, why does it hurt? And like, because you got hit by a truck. But like, there was so many little interesting things. I felt like for instance, they put a neck brace on me because they needed to make sure there wasn't like spinal cord damage or anything. But even though I had this neck brace on, they're like, oh, you have to get your sweatshirt off. I'm like, oh, this kind of defeats the purpose because I can't get my sweatshirt off with the neck brace. So I'm like moving my neck anyway. I'm like, you're trying to protect my neck. This is not doing it. Or like when they move the thing, when you're on that, it's like, dush, dush. I'm like, if I have spinal cord damage, this cannot be good for it. So it was wild. It was kind of, it was just very eye-opening in general. I still walk past it every day and definitely doing like a look over my shoulder all the time. But yeah, I'm still standing. I'm extremely lucky, obviously.
You're very lucky.
So, very like that. Yeah, the cop even said that when he showed up at the hospital. He's like, I saw you down on the ground. I was like, I did not think you were gonna make it. I'm like, here I am, kind of standing. So here I am. So, yeah, wild time.
And you have another transportation story as well.
Yes. So a few years before that, I was taking a megabus to Chicago, and I have always been a bit weary of like any transportation for some reason. Like maybe it's because like part of me knew this stuff was gonna happen, but I'm telling my friends that I'm gonna meet in Chicago. I'm like, I don't know, I'm just kind of nervous. I'm like afraid the bus is gonna blow up or something. Like, you're gonna be fine. So I get on this megabus. And I decided to take the top seat or whatever. Like there's a double-decker bus. So I sit on top and we're about an hour out of Cincinnati and I'm finally just like settling down. I'm like, all right, this is going to be fine. And then I hear this pop. And I was like, I don't know what that is. But the man driving the bus was like, I don't know what that is. I'm going to call a base and see what's going on. They're like, oh, you just blew a tire. You're fine. Keep going. And he decided, thankfully, he's like, I don't know. I'm just going to pull over and take a look. So he pulls over to the side, and I'm on the top, and I'm staying at the emergency exit, of course, and there's another pop that goes, and then all of a sudden, the bus driver stands like, get out, get out! We're starting to smell smoke, and I'm like, do I pull the emergency exit? Of all times, I'm staying at the emergency exit. But all these adults are like, no, just walk down the stairs. So we get off the bus, and then after like another couple minutes, it just bursts into flames. So we lost everything, but we thankfully all made it. And so I also, of course, call my friends. And my reaction, I don't know why, just is like, I'm hysterically laughing. So I'm calling my friends laughing. I'm like, the bus blew up. And they're like, sure. Of course it did. I was like, no, especially when I said I was afraid it was going to happen, it came true. Maybe I brought it to fruition, but unintentionally manifested it, I guess. But yeah, I think people could probably understand why I'm like afraid of planes and stuff now after like all those experiences. I'm like, there's something with this transportation. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
You in transportation in downtown, that's just crazy.
I know. Even my own two legs I can't trust apparently. So.
Yeah. Do you have a car?
Well, we're going to lead up to something even more I'm sorry, go ahead, Pat.
I was going to say, Autumn, do you have a scooter or a car, or how do you get around when you're not taking the bus or walking?
When I'm not taking the bus or walking, I do have a car. I feel pretty happy with that. I did update my car, got a new one a couple years ago, and the one before it was also probably a huge reason why I was afraid of transportation. That car was, I don't know, barely a go-kart at this point. It was this neon blue spaceship-looking car on its last leg. So Finally got a newer car the last couple years, but the scooters. Okay, so like the automatic scooters, there's a lot around downtown Cincinnati, like the Bird scooters or Limes.
Yeah.
I like them; they're fine, but at the same time, they go so fast, and like I'm not like a speed demon, so I'm like, how is this like we're just flying, no helmet, So I'm a little weary of them, but I mean, I will take them from time to time.
I've
Wow.
seen people on
Yeah.
them. I've
What we're
seen
gonna do
two
is we're gonna
people
take a
on
break
one.
here for just a minute. Yeah, two people on one could be a little wild, can't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna take a break here for just a minute because we're running late on time. And then we're going to lead into one last thing, which is very candid, and that is how you met your significant other. And you'll tell us a little bit about that. How does that sound? For a 30-second break here, okay?
Sounds good.
And welcome back to the show. And we have Autumn Grace Peterson from Cincinnati, Ohio. And of course, we have Shark in Los Angeles and myself here in San Diego. Autumn, we're going to get real deep now and a little candid. You've met somebody very, very exciting in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that person.
Yeah. His name is Sam. We met about 5.5 years ago. We met actually after a Bengals game, so it was a Sunday fun day. I was just coming down from Columbus to visit some friends for a weekend. And we had a wild weekend, and I was telling one of my friends when I was coming back in town, I was like, oh my gosh, this weekend was crazy. And I'm detailing all this stuff we did. And she thinks they're crazy stories. She tells this guy that she's seeing to come meet us up at a bar, and he hears the stories. He thinks they're crazy. He sends a Snapchat of me to one of his friends, Sam, with all these crazy things in this picture. He says, this girl's wild, or whatever. And Sam sees that picture. He goes, I gotta meet her, or whatever. I'm like, I think that probably should have been a red flag. Then hears the wild stories, like, gotta meet this girl, or whatever. So he comes to this bar, and I'm just telling him, like, at the time I was 23. I was like, oh, I'm just 23. I want to say yes to everything. I want to, like, just get out there and explore. He's like, oh, if you're saying yes to everything, can I have your number? And I was just like, it's too easy of a setup. So of course I shoot him down, and I say no, and he took it like a champ.
Okay.
Yeah. He was like, all right, all right. He's talking to me and everything, but I felt kind of bad afterwards. I did, because we really did hit it off, and I liked him. I was just being stubborn. And so to make it up to him, instead of just texting him, I got his number through a friend afterwards. Instead of just texting him, I was like, I need to do something to stand out. So I found him on LinkedIn. I found him on YouTube. I found him on Behance. Every single platform I could find him on. Found him, requested him all in one after the other immediately. And I texted him and said, did you get my friend requests? And thankfully, this was probably like a little test. He loved it. And he was like, yeah, oh my gosh. He's like, I was like, that probably should have been a red flag for him. Like, this crazy girl finding me everywhere. Like, FBI lady in the house or whatever. But, yeah, so we just kind of started there ever since. So,
Basically,
yeah,
what
we're
you did was you used all the social media tactics to get to it.
completely,
And
yeah,
it
got to
worked.
close that deal.
You
ABC.
closed it. Look at you. We'll
Uh-huh.
call you the closer. How does that sound?
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah.
Pat, do you have any follow-up questions to that?
No, I mean, it sounds like kind of like, well, I don't know if it was love at first sight, but maybe, some people say they know the one, or there's certain indicators. So when did you know
Hmm.
that Sam was the one?
I'm not. He was just from the very beginning. I feel like so easy to talk to, and he also just like was very invested and always there for me, kind of from the very beginning. He's been very receptive.
Hmm.
Um, he the way when I guess when he I around the time he told me, for instance, they loved me, is also kind of a
Oh,
funnier
the
story.
big L
I know.
word, huh?
I know, big word, huh? So we'd been dating at that point for a few months, and I kind of felt like it was coming, you know? It's like we both like we're definitely hitting it off. And there's one particular night I'm meeting up with him at a bar, and I had that feeling that he was gonna say that, but I didn't want him to because I met up at the bar, and he had already had a few beers, and I was like, this is not the environment or whatever, and I don't drink beer. And I show up to the bar and he's like, I got you a beer. And I said, oh, why? Because I'm like, I don't drink beer, is why. And he's like, because I love you, Jenny. Like he tried to play it off like a Forrest Gump quote. And I was like, okay. So I like run away, obviously. And I'm trying to avoid him because like, I don't want this coming out when he's drinking or anything. And then he's probably going to kill me for saying this. But someone ordered shots and he's not very good at taking shots. So he tries to take it like a champ. He takes a shot and he immediately runs out back to he's not handling the shot well. It's coming back.
Here.
So he's running outside. I'm like, oh no. So I go follow him and just try to be a good girlfriend, bring him out some water. I'm just like patting his back. And he in that moment he decides to go, I love you. I'm like, no, why now? After all this or whatever. So around then, it's definitely like I think any story when we look back at this stuff, I'm like, okay, it's definitely not a fairy tale the way we met or the love story, but it's like our own personal love story, and I think it's very us. So I just think the way it's kind of all worked out. Yeah,
Everybody
exactly.
has a
Very cool.
nobody has
Well,
a true fairy tale, but I think,
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be like on TV or at the movies. I think, everybody has their story.
Yeah, it's authentic. It's real, you know?
Exactly.
very
Exactly.
cool. Well, if we're coming up to the end of the time here, if it's okay with you, Autumn, we'd like to have you come back sometime in the future. Tell us more stories and some things that are going on in downtown Cincinnati. We had a great time with you.
Hmm.
Pat, any
Yeah,
last minute quick questions for her?
No, thank you very much, Autumn, for your time.
yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Thank you. We hope you have a great week ahead. We hope you enjoyed this issue of Transportation and the New Boyfriend. Take care. Have a great week ahead. Thanks again.